What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I am joined by two, that's right, not just one, two of the titans in the sports media industry, Jurg and Dame. Dame and Jurg. Fellas, how are we? Jurg, we did miss you. You took your first ever week off for appropriate and understanding reasons last week. So, how are we doing this week?
Doing good, doing good. Yo, just living, just loving life, boys. Enjoying things. I feel like I have a new lease on life recently. It feels good to have good feelings about the world. It's probably not going to last long, but I'm gonna enjoy the field goal while I can. But in all seriousness, I'm feeling good, doing good. Had a little bit of a rest last week, and now we back, and we're ready to talk big game, big game breakdown today, boys. This is the episode we've been waiting for.
Yeah, I'm doing good, but it reminds me that I'm putting him time off, Chris, April for one Thursday. I'm just putting in early, just letting you know. But I'm doing good. Chipotle just opened by my house today, so that was a very exciting time. I went there already. Good stuff. Gonna really hurt my bank account, but all in all, I'm doing good.
Yeah, you're going to get fat as shit with that Chipotle in your
No,
crib now.
I'm not.
Yeah, well, thanks for telling me about the PTO that you're exercising for April. It's because you are doing some scouting in Los Angeles. Is that what the rumor mill is?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Dame, you gotta let me know about what date that is because I gotta take. I'm definitely taking at least one show off in April, most likely too. So gotta make
What the
sure we're
hell
up
is
to the fourth.
happening, man?
April
I,
7th.
you get all right, but hey, Chris, you get time off once. It's like it becomes something.
I'll a solo podcast episode scheduled for April then. All right. Okay. Well, I guess we can move on to the actual sports portion of this show. All right, fellas. It is Thursday as we record right now. This will be released Friday, so which means in 2 days, by the time the listeners, quote unquote, the listeners listen to this, they'll be 2 days away from viewing the Super Bowl. That's right, it's already here, fellas. Super Bowl is already here. It's around the corner. Cincinnati Bengals versus the Los Angeles Rams. It's not the game everyone was expecting, but it's the game we're getting, right? So for this week, we will basically be giving our predictions on who will win. We will be giving our predictions on how the game will go, how both teams could possibly approach the game, a bunch of stuff. And so this will be a Super Bowl dominated episode. Is that cool with you boys?
Of course.
Yeah. Dame?
I got no choice, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway. So, guys, I'm going to make this a little different. We're going to switch it up a bit. So, usually when we give our, predictions, for these prediction episodes, we each go one at a time. But I can predict, I'm predicting for our predictions right now. I can predict that there's going to be a hat trick in this episode. I think Jurg, Dame, and I, and you guys can confirm after I say it,
Okay.
are predicting that the Los Angeles Rams will be winning the Super Bowl on Sunday. Is that correct, fellas? Any of you could fucking answer right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
correct. So that's the episode, guys.
Yeah, so that'll be it. And Jurg Social's not a joke. So we are all in consensus that we think the Rams are going to win. We're going to save a little bit of time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go one at a time. I'm going to go to Jurg first and then Dame. So what I'm going to ask is that how do you think this game will go? What can the Bengals do as a game plan? This is good. Yeah, and by the way, the Bengals, this is their first time in God knows how long since maybe their parents were born that they made the Super Bowl. Props to them. What can the Bengals do to prepare for this game in order to have a shot against the Rams? Now, I don't want to be the type to write them off, but I think it's for me this game could easily be a blowout. So I'm gonna ask both of you, what can the Bengals do to make this a game? How should they approach the game? Offensively, what should they do? I know their O line is gonna be going up against that Rams defense. So how can they adjust in order to make Joe Burrow not die and basically have a chance this game? And then of course, my counter question would be, how can the Rams approach this game? What can they do to avoid a somewhat of a meltdown that could possibly occur like it was against the Bucs? Obviously the Bucs are a more talented team, but how should the Rams approach this so that they could win this game without any, side bullshit. Because I feel like the Rams usually kind of beat themselves. So how can they avoid that type of, route of this game? So, and of course, how will they approach the game offensively and defensively? Same questions as I did for the Bengals. So, Jurg, start off with you. Well, what do you got?
Lots to unpack there. First off, the fun part, the joke. I'm pretty sure the last time the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl, I want to say my parents were well within their marriage at that point, and my sister was a toddler. She's the older sister, so there we go. Uh, now, in regards to the actual breakdown and analysis of this game, so yes, I do have the Rams winning. Now, selfishly, I want this to become a blowout because I have to go into work the next day. I have to wake up early for work the next day, extremely early. So, yes, selfishly, I want this to be a blowout. So, I have no question in my mind when I go in the next day. Oh, I know the Los Angeles Rams have won the Super Bowl, the Superb Owl, whatever else funny names we want to give it as well. The so let me go to the Bengals for. Oh, actually no. Let me stick with like the overall scope of the game. While I want it to selfishly be a blowout, I think this will be a relatively close game. I think because the Bengals have got to this point, it's hard for me to see them getting blown out. I will say I do expect the Rams to really hit them with a tidal wave of like plays on offense and defense, and it's going to be all about how the Bengals respond. And I just don't know or don't think that the Bengals can finally make that comeback here because I think when you look at the last two games for the Bengals, the Tennessee Titans defense came to play that day. The offense obviously did not. Ryan Tannehill proving once and for all that he is not a top 10 quarterback in this game. Thank God. While the Kansas City Chiefs, of course, the offense was amazing in the first half. Yes, they did falter. They still could have won that game, though. And the defense relatively did their job. Although to allow 20 plus points in the second half, like, come on now. The thing is, the Rams are the best of both worlds. This is a team whose offense is phenomenal. Of course, we have Cooper Kupp, the receiving triple crown of this season. You have Cam Akers coming back from injury. Odell Beckham Jr. has been a stud in these playoffs, especially in the last two games of this playoff run for the Rams. And I look at that defense. Do we really need to get into much detail? I think we've said it on the pod a numerous amount of times on the talent that's there. Donald, Miller, Gaines, Ramsey, Floyd, etc. Like, I don't think I need to go into the minutia of that necessarily. I'll just play it from both sides. I know you mainly asked about the Bengals. I'll just play from both sides first. The Rams, what they just simply need to do here is kind of like you said, Chris. We've said that at the end of the day, the Rams are arguably the most talented team in football, but sometimes they just get in their way. And the key part here is, and I've heard this concern be brought up, when I think it's going to be when the Rams build up a 10-point lead, because I think the Rams will build up at least a 10-point lead in this game, maybe even a 14-point lead. They cannot let it go. They need to keep that vice grip on the game. They need to keep that vice grip on the Bengals because we've seen it. If you give Joe Burrow too much life in these playoffs, he's going to make you pay. 18-3 was not a big enough lead against the Bengals in the conference title game. Sacking him 9 times apparently wasn't enough. Actually, it probably would have been enough if you had a real quarterback back there for Tennessee. But irregardless, the Los Angeles Rams have the tools at their disposal. They have three Hall of Famers on that defense. Yes, 3 Hall of Famers. You're hearing me right. Donald, Miller, and Ramsey to cause destruction. I think the way the Rams are going to play it, I'm sure Ramsey is going to want to play one-on-one on Chase and maybe even Higgins at times. I think there's going to be a lot of, not zone coverage per se, but like there's going to be a lot of help on the defensive back end of things when it comes to dealing with Jamar Chase. I think Aaron Donald and Von Miller are just going to be lethal when it comes to the pass rushing. I think the Rams are going to try to, maybe not in the first quarter, but especially in that second, third quarter, the Rams are going to want to go for the throat here. I think they're going to want to be as efficient as can be, try to get some big plays with Odell and Cooper Kupp. But the thing is, unlike the Chiefs, the Rams, yes, they can fall in love with the home run play, but they are more willing, especially with Sean McVay. I think they're a little bit more willing to take the intermediate and short routes offensively, and I think that's what's going to win them the game. I don't see Sean McVay, especially because him and Kyle Shanahan are cut from the same cloth. Like, I don't think he's going to abandon the running game. Like, Sean McVay is not a guy, when you look at his last Super Bowl, you can say that he kind of choked it away like McVay. No, just Bill Belichick outcoached him straight up. And in this case, now it's him against Zach Taylor. Now, funny enough, his former protege. Like, this is a guy who's smart, who's been here before. He's got some experience. He knows what this is like. I don't see Sean McVay. I mean, if he does, he does. But at least on the surface, I don't see him getting as panicked as he probably would have been the first time around, or if this was his first time around. So I think if McVay can keep this steady, if he can keep it in the guys' minds this entire time, like, you got to go for the win here, I see the Rams being able to pull out a pretty comfortable margin to end off the game. Now, obviously, to get to your main question, what can the Bengals do? I think what the Bengals have to do, it's on all three levels: offense, defense, special team. Special team just needs to keep on killing it. The Rams are also a pretty good special teams unit, so those two are going to go blow for blow there. I know a lot of people don't really take special teams into account, but I think special teams is going to be important at the end of it. So we'll just say they neutralize each other there. Offensively, what the Bengals have to do, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do this, I think the Bengals are going to need to run a couple more sets here and there than they're probably used to of twin tight end and dual running backs. I know that's not necessarily their offense. Like, yes, Joe Mixon is a good running back, and he's always a weapon for them. And yes, they've used their tight ends pretty well this season, especially Uzoma, who we're actually not sure about. He is probably going to play the game, but how effective is he going to be playing on his injury? Who knows? But the Bengals, of course, we know they love to air it out. Joe Burrow is an absolute stud when it comes to just accuracy, and him and Jamar Chase have that connection. Higgins and Boyd are good weapons. But the thing is, like, I don't know how you can look at the defensive line of Floyd, Miller, and Gaines and Donald and not put a couple more twin tight end sets out there just to block. Like, I know twin tight end sets, it's usually for running plays, but I think they're really going to need to, like, when the Rams rush four, I think you got to come at them with essentially 7 people trying to block them. 6 if they're, yeah, 7, whether it be one running back and a tight end or 2 tight ends. Like, I think you need to do all you can to try to neutralize this Rams pass rush, because the only way you're going to be able to really stay in this game and come back if you do fall behind is on the offense. Plain and simple. I think the Bengals defense is a little bit better than what we give them credit for, and I'll get to them in a bit. But I think the Bengals, if they're going to win this game, it's got to be the offense that's making plays. And we've said this on this podcast. We've heard it from other places. Joe Burrow can't make plays if he's on his back. Like, if the Rams get 9 sacks this game, it's going to be like a 3-touchdown blowout. They're not going to waste those opportunities like Tennessee did. They're just not. So I think the ultimate strategy here is do what you can to contain the Rams defensive line as best you can be. Because I think the skill position is just so talented. There's going to be a lot of 50-50 plays between the Bengals receivers and the Rams DBs. Like, Jalen Ramsey is definitely going to break up a pass against Higgins and Chase here and there, but those guys are also going to get a good catch as well. So that's the way I see it going down on that end. Now, if we go to the Bengals defense real quick, they need to try to fluster Stafford and McVay. They need to try to force them to do what Kansas City did, and that's want to go for the home run plays. That's get them off their game plan, get them to be as uneven keeled, as I'll call it, as possible. I think if you can force Stafford to fall in love with the deep ball, you could try to get some mistakes from him. Maybe if you can get Cam Akers' little fumbling problem to resume, I think that's the way to go if you're the defense. I think you just need to bait and you need to attack the Rams when it comes to how you play defense. Trey Hendrickson has got to do what he can. Going against Andrew Whitworth will be tough. This Rams offensive line is good. Andrew Whitworth has become a Hall of Famer here in the last quarter or half of his career, essentially. He's really supremely talented as a left tackle. You just got to attack them. You got to try to see if you can get pressure to Stafford. And even if you don't, the defensive back crew has to do their job. And I think Bates and Mike Hilton being the leaders in the defensive backs, like, they need to do all they can to try to get Cooper Kupp. If Cooper Kupp is ever left alone 1-on-1, that plays a wrap. That it just is. So I think that's what the Bengals need to do in particular. But the main focus is the offensive line. Like, of all the games, and I know Dame will agree with this, this is the game the offensive line and the pass protection needs to hold up. Because if they don't, then the Bengals, I'm sorry, this is going to be a real quick Super Bowl.
Yeah, you said a lot of things that I definitely agree with. Obviously, we both have the Rams winning. Just to get into details about what I think for the Bengals, key to success, I think on the offensive side, I think it starts with the run game. And I don't mean the run game like, say, I don't think they have to run for, say, 200 yards or something like that. And Joe Mixon has to have like 30 carries, 150 yards, 200 yards, like 2-3 touchdowns, anything like that. I just think they need to be able to not have those runs that we kind of saw last week when they played the Niners, when the Rams played the Niners and they limited that run game. And basically every time they ran the ball on first down, it was 1 yard or no gain. And then the Niners started with 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11, something like that. And you kind of just wasted a play by running the ball. And that's something I think the Bengals can't afford to do in this game. So they are gonna need to be able to run the ball for positive yardage, like 3-4 yards, to kind of give Joe Burrow some more space to work with. But also they need to be able to run the ball to limit that Rams pass rush, like you mentioned how elite that is. because if you're running the ball, these pass rushers that the Rams have are gonna have to hesitate for a second or two, and that second or two could be the difference from Joe Burrow either getting sacked or Joe Burrow making a play to Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, or T Higgins. So I think the Bengals run game is going to be extremely important in this game. But I do think for them to win is definitely going to come down to their offense. Like I obviously mentioned the run game, but I think Joe Burrow is going to have an extremely big game. I don't think he's going to be able to win this game with say 200 yards or something like that, 200 yards and a touchdown and a pick. I think he's going to have a monster game. Like we've kind of seen flashes of him having that in the regular season. These 400-yard games with like 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, stuff like that. I think that's the kind of game Joe Burrow is going to need to have to beat this Rams team. As for the Bengals defense, I think they're gonna. I don't think, obviously, like I said, I don't think they're gonna be the reason they do win. If they do win, I don't think it's gonna be because of the defense. But their defense is gonna have to make a play or two. Like not now, I'm not saying like a sack on first down or second down or something like that. Like I think they're gonna need to get one of these infamous Matt Stafford pick sixes that I think leads the league in this year. And I don't think he's had one in the playoffs, but throughout the regular season, pretty sure he led the league in those. So I think that's something that the Bengals defense is going to need to do if they want definitely a chance to win this game. If it's not pick six and you like fumble in their own territory where they get incredibly great field position to kind of just change the momentum of the game. But that defense is going to have to make a turnover to give the ball to Joe Burrow and give him as many chances as possible to score points and put them in the lead. What else I got here? Yeah, for the Rams now, for their keys to success, it's not as much things as needs to happen as I think for the Bengals because I think the Rams have a much talented roster on offense and on defense. For them, I think they do need to run the ball as well, but it's not for the same reason as the Bengals. I don't think they need to limit the Bengals pass rush because it's not as good. But I think for the Rams, the key to running the ball for them is because it opens up their extremely deadly play action game. We all know when the Rams run that play action, whether it's deep to Odell or Van Jefferson or Cooper Kupp, like when they get it and actually fake out the defense, like that kind of
They're
offense is
money.
deadly for them. It's
They're
money
absolute
every.
money.
Yeah, exactly. So if they're able to run the ball, that play action is going to be open all game, and it might be a route. So the Bengals defense, going back to the Bengals defense, they're really going to need to stop that run game so they can not get faked out and kind of exploited on the play action game. What else? Yeah, they need, like I kind of mentioned this with the Bengals defense, but I think the Rams definitely need to limit their turnovers. They've kind of had a problem with that with the run game with the fumbles throughout the playoffs. Not really Matt Stafford, but he almost had a really big turnover against the 49ers, but it was a drop pick. Like that could have changed the entire game. They can't have stuff like that with the Bengals because if the Bengals capitalize, like I said, I think that could change the entire game. Cam Akers obviously can't be fumbling. I think I read that Darrell Henderson might be back, so it might be a 3-back committee in this Super Bowl, which will definitely obviously help the Rams out. So definitely limiting turnovers and giving Joe Burrow the least amount of opportunities as possible would be extremely important for that offense. And as for the defense, they like everyone's talking about like this Rams pass rush versus this Bengals offensive line being such a key matchup in this Super Bowl. And I think it will be. I think this Rams defense needs to live up to the hype that they're having. And Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, all these big boys on that defensive line need to get after Joe Burrow. And the big thing about it is they need to get after him and finish the sacks. I know we saw in the Kansas City Chiefs game in the second half when the Bengals were coming back, the Chiefs did have a couple opportunities where they could get a big sack, like for a big loss on like second or third down. That really would have put the Bengals in a hard position to kind of come back. But then you see Joe Burrow kind of get out of it and then make a play, whether with his legs or them getting out the pocket and making it with his arm. So being able to not only get to Joe Burrow, but finishing off the sack and actually putting him on the ground and killing the play, that's something I think is going to be extremely big because Joe Burrow is kind of a big guy and he's good at getting out of a sack after he gets contact on him. So guys like Aaron Donald and Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, you're going to have to use that eliteness that you have, that strength that you have, and finish the play and put Joe Burrow on the ground. But yeah, overall, I do think that the Rams is just going to limit their turnovers. Like I said, their pass rushes, I do think is going to get after Joe Burrow and finish it off. And I just don't think the Bengals are going to do enough to overcome the Rams roster on offense and defense.
Chris, before you do bounce in real quick, and you could also talk about this point a little. Dame, isn't it funny for all the grief we always give running backs every single offseason, for all the times that people are always like, that's a bad contract you give to the running back. Why are you spending a pick on a running back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Two things that we both pointed out here is how important the running backs are going to be for both these teams. Whether it's for the Bengals, again, I really do think that they're going to need to use their backs and tight ends with some of these protection schemes. But also to your point, if you run the ball, if you're the Bengals, you kind of force just barely, because Miller and Donald are still so good, but you kind of force the Rams defense to have to lay off just a touch, and that could buy you on a couple possessions here and there that extra second on a few downs for Burrow to be able to pass. And then for the Rams, like you said, Dame, because I've cut some Rams tape, like the Rams play action, if they get it going, this game will be a rout, like you said, no doubt. Like play action to Jefferson, play action to Odell, Cooper Cup, whether it's regular play action, he's just a beast. Like the Rams have the ability here to really destroy this game. Like I usually talk about this in basketball, we'll talk about game breaking. The Rams can really break this game open if the running game can do their thing. Like the sky is the limit for them, for both teams, but especially for the Rams. Like I find it really funny that for both of us, we talk about the importance of the running backs here when the entire time. And I know people usually do bring it up in the playoffs, but like I feel like this is more so another discussion. But like the running backs need a little bit more credit here, because like we both just talked about the fact that these guys are going to play a key role for both of these teams' offenses performing in this game. Obviously,
Yeah, absolutely. Like we do shit on running backs, and I think there is a difference though between like say paying a running back 13 million and him being like the workhorse, and then say having a really good 2 or 3 back committee like the Rams have with Cam Akers, Sonny Michel, and now hopefully Darrell Henderson. I think something like the committee, I think that's what kind of the NFL is leaning towards honestly, or the kind of keys to success. Because when's the last team that really won a Super Bowl with just a one heavy workhorse at running back? Like it's kind of hard to find nowadays. I guess you could say kind of Leonard Fournette, but like Ronald Jones did play a factor last year. Gio Bernard did. Like they all these teams that won the Super Bowl kind of don't have one running back to lean on, because it kind of the change of pace is very important as well. You have your blocking running backs, you have your actual running backs to get you yards, you have your receiving backs. Like it's very different. But all in all, even though maybe workhorses are kind of fading away from the NFL, the importance of the run game, I think, will never will, because of all the different factors that go into it. That whether it's running the ball or in the passing game.
So it's clear that this game could go a lot of ways. Like obviously, I think that I predict. Like obviously, we think that this game might be a blowout, and it very well could be. And that also sometimes is the theme of a lot of Super Bowls, where like it's a domination. But I do think the Bengals, based on how they adjusted from that Chiefs game, do give me a modicum of hope for for them to make this a compelling game, and I do think they can. Like obviously, like just that Rams defense does scare me, because I do think Burrow was. I mean, Jurg, you heard our episode last week. Dame didn't necessarily think Burrow had a great second half. I mean, Jurg, you saw the game against the Chiefs. Does that second half performance from Joe Burrow, like, do you think, does it give you hope on how like he could perform in the against the Rams possibly? Because he did actually, excuse me, he did have that one interception, but I believed he was flawless in that second half. Like, and he took it one step at a time. Like, he didn't go for those crazy Hail Mary passes. There were some passes where I think he was trying to go a little far, but he took it one step at a time, very slow. Obviously, did performed well in the pocket. Now it's going to be a different story because it's Rams defense. But how can he take that momentum from the second half of the Chiefs game? What can he learn from that and like use it to carry on in the Super Bowl?
I think just continuing to be calm, cool, and composed is really what was the big victory there for Burrow in that second half. Let's be real here. Like the Chiefs' defense was doing everything right in the first half, and again, they still played relatively well. Just you always just it's off when your defense does give up those points at the end of the day. But no, like I can kind of see Dame's point, but the thing is here is that like the way that I categorize that, and I'd probably lean to agree with you more so, Chris, about having a great second half, is that maybe numbers wise it wasn't phenomenal, but just the way he orchestrates the offense. Like here's what I find funny. I don't really tend to use the phrase game manager as much as most people when it comes to quarterbacks, because technically speaking, every quarterback is just managing a game. It's just some are more dynamic. So when I say the phrase Burrow managed that game extremely well, I'm not diminishing his skill. I'm not saying he wasn't a big reason for why they won that game. What I'm saying is that he, as the quarterback who the week before got the absolute stuffing beat out of him, who in that game the defense was giving him fits and timing was off and they were just not performing well. He managed everything. He took the game plan and he helped execute it to the fullest potential. Yes, there was the interception, but let's be real here. Down to the Kansas City Chiefs, you need to play pretty amazing football in some way, shape, or form to come back against them. And the offense has to be a part of that because that they were down double digits. So I think if there's one thing you can take from that second half is just the fact that Joe Burrow, if the game is within striking distance, like he's going to give that team hope. I think Burrow has become that guy where the Bengals are going to look at him, and maybe it's not going to be the same way like Mahomes or an Allen with like these 60-yard bombs to his guys, but just he can nickel and dime you, but he can also launch it here and there. And Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are just so dynamic. Like you could throw it to any of those guys, they'll turn a 15-yarder into a 35-yarder. Or you throw it up to Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase has become one of those guys where it's like, I expect him more times than not to come down with the football. And Joe Burrow plays a massive role in that, not just because he is the quarterback, but he is the executor of offense. He is the excellence of execution with that offense, some could call it, as well as being Joe Cool and all the other stuff, names that we want to give him over the last couple weeks, which I think we're being a little bit too extra. Let's just stick with Joe, the new Joe Cool, and leave it
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I think if there's one, like if you talk about that specific second half, what the second half showed me is that if the Rams don't punish Burrow once they have the Bengals in position, the Bengals will be able to mount some sort of a comeback because Joe Burrow, I think he has earned the right where you can expect him to be able to lead that team because that kind of leadership, that kind of confidence, it's unteachable. Like I know we always say that these things are unteachable and intangible this and it factor that. No, that level, that level headedness, that leadership that he has, that you can't teach that. You just can't. I know, before his last year in college, he credits so much to Joe Brady, and yes, Joe Brady helped him. And I know it hasn't always been, easy, especially because this run, we all know it was out of nowhere. But those are the kinds of things you can't teach. Joe Burrow has that, and it's spread to the team, and it's because he's that good of a leader. So if there's one thing it's shown me is that Joe Burrow's a hell of a leader, and if like I know I've been repeating this point, but this is the truth because we've seen double-digit comebacks in Super Bowls now in recent years. Like if you don't step on the team's throat, they can come back, and the Bengals have already shown us they can do that these playoffs. So don't waste time. Don't let him in this. Because if you give good old Joe Cool 2.0 the chance, the Bengals are going to make this a game, baby.
Now, let's say for, just theoretically here, it's a close game towards, the end. Let's say fourth quarter, it's relatively close. Maybe it's a 3-point game. Maybe it's tied. But, as the game progresses, if it's still close by the end of it, towards the end, there's like 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left. Who do we have more faith in? Do we have the Bengals or do we have Stafford? Because, like you said, Jurg, seems like Joe Burrow thrives off this. Like loves that pressure, even though this is the biggest stage possible. But he looks like he's the type to handle it well. And they'll be in SoFi Stadium as well, so I think the Rams will have somewhat of a home field advantage. But if it's a close game by the end, who do we have more faith in? And we have to give credit to Matt Stafford because Matt Stafford has been really good, these playoffs. And of course, Cooper Kupp will be having Eli Apple guard him. I know Jurg is a fan of that matchup.
So here's the funny thing. If we're going on a neutral playing field, and I don't mean like the arena, I mean like all things neutral, all things even, I might give a slight edge to the final possession to Burrow. But here's the thing with this specific game. How many times has he been sacked to this point? And how good has the Bengals running game been? Because I really think, to Dame's point, and I guess we could throw it to Dame after this with that same question as well. If the Bengals offense has been uneven, if it's predominantly on Burrow throwing the ball, and if he's been sacked 7-8 times, then no, I'm giving the advantage to the Rams there. Because I think at some point, all the hits, all the beatings, it comes back to you. Remember, I saw the stat. I want to say this is the third time in the Super Bowl era that the two teams facing off against each other, one of them allowed their quarterback to be sacked 50 plus times, and the other team got 50 plus sacks as a whole this season. It was something along those lines. Like, this is the ultimate. we talk about David versus Goliath matchups usually with like the teams as a whole or like point spreads and stuff. No, this is David versus Goliath with that Rams defensive line against that Bengals offensive line. If Burrow has been sacked relentlessly, if he's been pressured, if he just hasn't been able to get away, if he's been hit today, then even if the Bengals get the ball last, if it's like an 8-point game, I really have to wonder because it's like I feel at some point all those hits are just going to get to Burrow. It's going to play in his mind. It's going to play in that team's mind, and it just doesn't do you any good. So maybe on a base, like all things even, you strip away all the other factors. I could see an argument for Burrow over Stafford because the kid, again, he's a national champion in college. Like he tore up Clemson, who at the time was seen as the greatest defense in college football. Remember, the year before, Clemson not shut out, but they decimated a Nick Saban Alabama team. They destroyed Tua, who, say what you want about his time in the pros, in college, Tua was a Heisman candidate, that season. And he probably would have won the Heisman had it not been for like the last game of the season before the Natty, the SEC championship game that year. Tua was the Heisman. He was going to be the Heisman, but Kyler Murray's last couple weeks combined with Tua struggling in the SEC title game, I'm convinced gave Kyler the Heisman that year. Because I think Tua could have and should have been the Heisman winner that year. But again, every time. So Burrow has performed well, and I could see a situation where he is, maybe you could argue, getting the better of Stafford on some things, but he's not facing Stafford. He's facing the defense.
Yeah.
And I think if this ends up being like what the Bucs defense was doing to Mahomes and Rodgers last year, because remember, Rodgers, this year against the 49ers was pressured on 33% of his dropbacks. Last year, it was 22 pressures or hits. I forget what it was. I want to say pressures probably. It was 22 hits on Rodgers and pressures. That was the most pressures he had ever had in an NFC championship game in his career. And then Mahomes, 29 pressures caused by the defense. That was the most in a Super Bowl ever that a quarterback had to face. Like if we're starting to get into the 20s for the pressures Burrow's facing, give that game to the Rams.
Dude, oh man, if if we break that record of pressures, like especially coming off last year where we just saw Mahomes get mauled, dude, that is going to be not hilarious, but it's just wow, just wow. Back to back years, we just see domination. But Jurg, what I'm going to say the difference is here, and this is like I'm literally saying the obvious. But Jamar Chase is going against Jalen Ramsey, and Cooper Kupp is going against Eli Apple.
Right.
And I think that's going to be it. I think
that's fair.
And I think that's going to be the deciding factor. Again, I think this is the Rams for the taking. It's about execution. McVay, great coach, but he does have a track record of like towards the end some sus late play calling. I don't know. I think Sean McVay is going to outcoach Zach Taylor, and Sean McVay has been here before. He admitted that he was overcoaching, that he overprepared when he played the Patriots. I believe it was 2018, 17, something like that, or 19.
And he also got out coached. Remember, Belichick, like he admits Belichick schooled him.
Yeah. But that one was obvious. Like that was uncharted territories. You're going against the greatest coach of all time. So I think he's going to be better prepared. Does that excuse him? I don't think I'm going to give him an excuse yet because he admitted his faults. But I mean, that doesn't mean like he's not going to make mistakes. So I think this is going to go either way. Dame, I want to let you talk. Basically, what do you think?
Well, both these quarterbacks are definitely clutch. Like, neither one of these are unproven in the big moment or anything like that. But if I'm going to have to lead towards one guy, I'm going Matthew Stafford. Because just based on the numbers, like, he's the best fourth quarter quarterback based on passer rating and quarterback rating in the entire NFL. And all season long, he's made big play after big play. You saw against the Buccaneers in that week that in the playoffs when they almost had a incredible collapse. He made two incredible throws to Cooper Kupp that led them to the game-winning field goal. And last week he made play after play in the fourth quarter. Besides that one, obviously drop pick, he made play after play down the stretch in the biggest moment to lead his team to victory. So I've just seen it all year from Stafford in the fourth quarter. Him being clutch and making throw after throw in the biggest moment when his team really needs him, and that's why I'm going to lean with Stafford if it comes down to that.
Okay, all right. Fellas, do we have any final predictions, comments, concerns, thoughts, anything? Go ahead, Drew.
My bad. I guess I'll just start with the comments real quick. I find it funny with Dame mentioning that because a lot of people do point to the enigma of Stafford making mistakes. I think a lot of people forget Stafford usually makes those like terrible decisions early in the game. Like to Dame's point, fourth quarter, even in Detroit, like Matthew Stafford like he would ball. Like he was just a baller. You know how many times he had to actually try to come back in the fourth quarter against in those Detroit Lion games? Like this dude is used to having to organize game-winning drives. Um, so I think Dame brings up a really good point there. Again, I don't blame it. I think Joe Burrow, like there's just that's why I say Joe Cool 2.0. I think there's something about the kid. I don't think the fourth quarter phases him. But at the same time, you're going about, like Dame said, statistically the best fourth quarter quarterback in the league this season. And I think like one thing that I heard someone describe this Super Bowl ultimately is this is the most unknown Super Bowl we're going into because we don't know how these quarterbacks are going to perform because it's the first time for both of them in the pros. Um, both teams, it's an enigma. The Bengals offensive line at times it's looked good in the postseason, at times it's looked bad. The Rams defensive line is just so dominant. The Bengals defensive back crew, Eli Apple, will get torched in the first half and then plays a little bit better in the second and then is suddenly talking like he's something, offering Super Bowl tickets to Tyreek Hill. Like, dude, he has a ring. Can you really not until you actually get one? And it's not going to be because of you that the team wins it this year. Like, I'm just saying, stop having bigger egos than y'all really do sometimes, especially Eli Apple. But, like, ultimately, like, just final comments. Again, I hope this is a relatively good game. I hope this is a relatively close game just for everyone's sake because I always want the Super Bowl to be entertaining. Like I said, it's only selfishly that I want this to become a blowout because I have work the next day. Give me a break. I have to work. My final score, I guess, like, you know, I don't know if you want us to go like bam, 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 or if you want me to just give
Hey,
it
go
now
ahead. Go
before you
ahead.
guys go. If I had to kind of give the range of a final score in this one, I think there's going to be a good chunk of scoring here. I think the Bengals will be relatively close, but I think the Rams will make that little run and pull away. I have the final score being 35-24 Rams.
Mhm.
I don't
Dame,
know. If I had to think of a random final score, let's go 31-23 Rams.
I'm gonna go
That's what I'll do.
37. I'm gonna go 37-20 Rams.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a fucking route.
yeah. I don't. No need to swear, but yeah, I guess it was a. I guess a hot take, whatever. But Jurg's right. Look, the Super Bowl is a spectacle. It's like it's that one sport event that's like no other. Um, like either way, it's still a good time regardless. But yeah, we do hope it's a good game. Last year's was a stinker. The year before that was somewhat good. The year before that was boring. Yeah, but overall, but you know what I do like about the Super Bowl is that you know I don't think I would be mad at who the winner would be. If the Bengals win, great underdog story. Dude's haven't won in God knows how long. Joe Burrow's, awesome. We're all happy. I don't think anyone would be mad if the Bengals win. It's the greatest story. It's the best story possible. It's the underdog story. It's the fall from grace, 0 to hero type shit. Joe Burrow becomes Azor Ahai to my Game of Thrones fans. But if the Rams win, yeah, the overwhelming favorite wins, but like I don't think there's a lot of, hated characters on the Rams. Stafford gets his ring, deserves it after being in that pit in Detroit for so long. Cooper Kupp, awesome. Everyone likes him. OBJ, what a comeback story for him. It seems like he's turning the page in his career. Who else? Who else am I missing? Von Miller gets another ring. Jalen Ramsey gets another ring. Aaron Donald finally gets his ring. So it's just there's no to the fans in terms of just like who would win. I think it's a W for anyone. I don't think anyone's kind of rooting for specific. I mean, obviously, unless you're like it's your team that you're rooting for, like you're a hometown kid. Obviously, you're gonna have like more of an emotional investment. But it's like the blinded fans to like us who are unbiased because we don't really have a favorite. I know me and Dame would have probably rooted for the Chiefs heavy if they were in the Super Bowl, but they're not. But yeah, I think either way, whoever wins, great. Sucks to be the loser. But I'll say this: the Rams need to win this more than the Bengals, in my opinion,
Agree.
because they have mortgaged so much of their draft capital for win now moves. This is not going to be Joe Burrow's final Super Bowl appearance. He'll be back. He will be back.
Well,
Well,
like it's
let's just assume he'll be back. Well, like he has more of a margin for error
right.
than
Okay,
Matt
that's
Stafford.
fair. I was gonna say that's
Yeah. Who knows? You're right. God knows what happens. But Joe Burrow will likely have more opportunities to compete at this level. Whereas everything just feels like it has to happen now for the Rams. That's why they got Stafford. That's why they traded for Von Miller. That's why they went out and got OBJ, who everyone thought was a questionable fit, but it worked out. So hoping for a good game. If it's not, whatever. Super Bowl's awesome. That's all I got to say about it. Guys, any final comments before we wrap it up?
Go Rams, and hopefully there's good food at Manny's house.
So you do want the Rams to win?
That's I'm a root for, just to humble some people that I know are shooting for the Bengals.
No names? Can we say his name?
No, but other than that, just rooting for props and rooting for good food. I haven't decided what I'm betting yet for the coin toss.
I'm hoping my friends make money that day. I hope you degenerates do something well. Jurg, do you have is there anyone you're rooting for? I know you don't really give a shit, but who? Is there anyone you wouldn't mind winning?
So I'm an agent of chaos. If the Rams win, just so Giants and Cleveland Browns fans can be really, really annoyed. Just so Baker Mayfield, it could be a stick in the craw of Baker. And I don't really hate Baker. It's just like when people were trying to say it was more on Odell in Cleveland, I just absolutely like that. I can't stand what I can't stand no more, boys. I don't understand how you can put what happened in Cleveland on Odell when Baker Mayfield is literally a college quarterback could throw to Odell Beckham Jr. better than what Baker Mayfield was throwing to Odell. And we just saw it this year. I don't know what mismanagement Cleveland was doing there, but Odell can still ball. So I hope that the Rams win just so that Odell can literally, he's not going to do it, but it could kind of be like a middle finger to all the Giants and the Browns fans that thought he was the problem. It's like, oh, he's a diva wide receiver, da-da-da, he can't win, da-da-da, and then he gets a Super Bowl. I hate the phrase diva wide receiver. I think that should only be to specific people. Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr. is not on that level where he should have ever been called that. The Giants are annoying. The Giants organization is terribly ran, except for this offseason. They've actually made good hires, but again, another time. And then the Cleveland Browns have been a cesspool for so long. It's hard to get 20 years of stench off of you. So none of that was on Odell. He's in the Super Bowl. You guys aren't. Go cry in the corner, and let's go Rams.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Joe Burrow is what Baker Mayfield thinks he is. I'm all for Browns catching slander on this podcast. All right, yeah, so that'll do it for this week. Gentlemen, amazing job as always. Jurg, where can they find us on the socials?
I mean, come on, guys. You already know this. I say this every week, but let's keep it going. Let's keep it growing. We got a little... the follower count increase on the IG a little bit, and come on, end of Super Bowl season, end of NFL season. This is big time right here for all of us. Make sure you follow us at the SomeWhatSports Instagram page, and of course, to listen to this, you got to go on YouTube to listen to the full pod. Unless there's any update that we want to tell the people, Chris. I don't know if you want to interrupt here and say anything else when it comes to where they could listen to the pod, but of course, make sure you listen to us on listening platforms. The great analysis. Football season may be coming to an end. It is sad, but don't worry. We're getting past this stuff. We're still going to talk about football. The offseason is always interesting. We got to talk about the new coaches after the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, the Somewhat Sports Podcast, it goes 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24/7. All the cliches. Let's get it, boys.
Yeah, I'll announce the extra streaming services if you follow us on Instagram. We'll make that announcement on Instagram. So somewhat.sports. Follow us there to know what we're talking about. Just had to plug that, Jurg. Addition by subtraction here.
Love it.
So yeah, Jurg and Dane, thank you as always for your expert analysis. To all the listeners who made it this far, we appreciate the shit out of you. And until next time, the peace.